I noticed the stranger because he stepped out of the shadows exactly when I reached the streetlight, and for a moment I thought he had been standing there the entire time waiting for someone to walk past. It was late, somewhere around midnight, and the street was one of those quiet residential roads where the houses sit back from the sidewalk and the trees hang low enough to block most of the light. I had just finished a long shift and decided to walk home instead of waiting for a ride. It was only about 15 minutes away, and normally the route was simple. One straight road, a short park path, and then my apartment building. I remember thinking how empty everything felt that night, not in a peaceful way, just quiet enough that every footstep sounded louder than it should. When the stranger stepped forward into the glow of the streetlight, he didn't say anything at first. He just looked at me like he was trying to confirm something. I slowed down automatically, the way people do when they notice someone unexpected on a sidewalk. He was older than me, maybe in his 40s, wearing a dark jacket and holding what looked like a folded piece of paper in one hand. After a few seconds, he spoke in a calm voice that didn't sound threatening at all. He asked if I knew where Maple Avenue was. The question was simple enough, and Maple Avenue was only a block away, so I pointed down the road and told him he could reach it if he kept walking straight and turned right at the next intersection. He nodded slowly, like he already knew that, but wanted to hear someone confirm it. Then he said something strange. He said, "Good. Just remember that when you pass the park, don't stop if someone calls your name." I laughed a little because it sounded like an odd joke, but the stranger didn't smile. He just folded the paper in his hand again and stepped back into the darker part of the sidewalk like our conversation was finished. I walked away thinking it was just a weird interaction with someone who maybe enjoyed saying unsettling things to strangers at night. The moment that kept bothering me later wasn't what he said, it was the way he said it so casually, like he was reminding me of something I should already know. I reached the intersection and turned right exactly where he had said Maple Avenue would be. The street looked normal, a few parked cars, some porch lights glowing faintly, nothing unusual. The park entrance was only a minute further down the sidewalk, marked by a small metal gate that stayed open at night for pedestrians. As I walked closer, I remembered what the stranger said about not stopping if someone called my name. It was such a specific warning that I found myself listening more carefully than usual. The park path curved between a row of tall trees and a small playground that sat empty after dark. I had walked through there dozens of times before without thinking about it. That night, the air felt heavier, almost like the quiet had followed me inside the park. Halfway along the path, I heard footsteps behind me. They were light and slow, matching my pace closely enough that it took a moment to realize they weren't echoes of my own steps. I turned slightly to glance back, but the path behind me was empty, just the dim outline of the park entrance in the distance. I kept walking and told myself it was probably someone on the grass nearby, or maybe a sound carrying from another street. That explanation worked for about 30 seconds. Then I heard my name. Not shouted, not whispered, just spoken clearly in a voice that sounded almost familiar. I stopped automatically before remembering the stranger's warning. The moment I realized what I had done, I started walking again immediately, faster this time. I didn't turn around, I didn't answer, I just kept moving toward the end of the path where the streetlights of my neighborhood were visible again. The voice didn't call my name a second time. Instead, the footsteps returned behind me, slightly closer now than before. I reached the end of the park path and stepped onto the sidewalk outside my apartment building. The footsteps stopped instantly. I looked back then, expecting to see someone exiting the park behind me, but the path was empty again. The rest of the night passed normally, but the next evening something small happened that made me think about the stranger again. I was leaving the building around the same time when I noticed a folded piece of paper taped to the metal gate at the park entrance. It looked similar to the one the stranger had been holding. I walked closer and saw a short message written in uneven handwriting. It said, "If you hear your name, keep walking." There was nothing else on the paper, no explanation, no signature, just the same warning the stranger had given me the night before. I assumed someone was playing a joke, or maybe starting one of those neighborhood mystery games people sometimes create online. But over the next few nights, more notes appeared around the park path. Each one contained a different rule written in the same handwriting. One said, "If you see someone standing on the grass, don't step off the path." Another said, "If the lights go out, keep your eyes on the ground." None of them explained why the rules existed. They just appeared overnight like reminders for people who already understood the situation. What bothered me most was the fact that none of the other pedestrians seemed to notice them. I saw people walking through the park normally, talking on their phones or walking their dogs, completely ignoring the notes taped to the fences and trees. I even asked one neighbor if they had seen the strange messages around the park, and they looked at me like I was describing something that wasn't there. The next time I walked through the park, I started paying closer attention to the path itself. That was when I noticed something subtle about the ground. The dirt along the edges of the trail looked slightly disturbed, like someone had been walking beside the path instead of on it. The footprints were faint but consistent, appearing every few feet along the grass line. I followed them with my eyes while staying on the pavement. Halfway through the park, the footprints suddenly stopped. Not faded away, just stopped like the person walking there had stepped onto the path directly behind me. I turned around slowly. The path was empty again. No one walking toward me, no one standing nearby, just the quiet rustling of the trees above the playground. I finished the walk home and tried to convince myself I was overthinking everything. But the next night, the stranger appeared again. He was standing at the same streetlight where I first saw him, holding another folded piece of paper. This time, he didn't ask for directions. He just looked at me and said, "You stopped the first time, didn't you?" I didn't answer right away. The way he said it made it clear he already knew. After a moment, I admitted that I had stopped when I heard my name. The stranger nodded slowly, almost disappointed. Then he handed me the paper he was holding. When I unfolded it, I saw a single line written in the same uneven handwriting as the notes in the park. It said, "If it learns your name, it will keep using it." I looked up to ask him what he meant by that, but the stranger had already stepped back into the shadow of the trees again. I never saw him walk away. He was just gone. I still walk through that park sometimes because it's the shortest route home, but I follow the rules now. I don't stop if I hear someone calling my name, and I never step off the path, no matter what I think I see moving in the grass beside me. The strange thing is that the notes stopped appearing a few weeks ago. The fences and trees are clean again, like they were before any of this started. But every once in a while, when I'm halfway across the park, I'll hear footsteps matching my pace, just a few steps behind me. And every time that happens, I remember the stranger's warning and keep walking forward without turning around. Because part of me has started to wonder if the rules weren't meant to protect people from something in the park, but from something that follows anyone who stops long enough to listen.